Hi everyone! Today let's talk about walking bass. So what is walking bass? You know how in the right hand of most jazz pieces you have the melody or the improv, but the left hand has this set of notes and it brings the chords together. It's like the notes are walking along with the song. So walking bass is basically an underlying pulse of the song, and it moves in a stepwise motion and it gives the song some harmony. So walking bass can have different rhythms. It can be straight, syncopated, or swung. So let's look into that with a super popular example. If you guys are watching this video, you definitely must know Fly Me to the Moon. Fly Me to the Moon uses many types of walking bass. So all walking bass mostly starts on the root of the chord. So the first chord in Fly Me to the Moon is the A minor 7. The root of that chord is the A. So the walking bass would usually start on an A because that's the root of the chord. And when we get to the next measure, the D minor 7 is the second chord. So we would use the root as the first note of the next measure. First, let's look into the chord approach. That would be using the notes that most define each chord, and then the last note being a chromatic note that resolves to the next chord. So let me show you what I mean. We start with the A minor 7 chord, and three notes that would most define that chord would be the A, C, and E. And for the next measure, the D minor 7, we would use D, F, and A. For the G7 chord, which is next, we would play G, B, D. And for the C major 7 chord, we would play C, E, G. So we have to connect all of the chords though, because the last note of each measure has to do a chromatic resolution to the next bar. So we would start with A, C, E, and we know we have to get to the D for the next measure. So after we play that, we would go to E flat and then D. That's how the last note of each bar brings the two measures together. It's kind of like a conjunction between one phrase and another. And now we have to get to the G, so we would just go A flat, G. So let me play that again. And there are many ways you could do the chord approach, because you could invert the chord any way you like. As you can see in the last measure, the C major 7, I still did the chord approach. It was just inverted, E, G, C. Okay, now let's move on to the step approach. So once again, we start with our A minor 7 chord, and basically the step approach is using mostly whole steps and half steps. So we would just play the chromatic notes of the A minor scale because it's an A minor 7 chord. And we have to get to the next measure where we have to play D, E, F because those are the first three notes of the D minor scale. So once again, we would use a chromatic note to move from the A minor 7 measure to the D of the D minor 7 measure. So it would go like this. We could move the bass line an octave lower to make it sound more like a walking bass. As you can see in the step approach, you can use a formula. So you take the first 3 notes of the scale that corresponds to the chord. So the A minor 7 would be the A minor scale, D minor 7 would be the D minor scale, the G7 would be the G scale, and the C major 7 would be the C scale. So you just play the first 3 notes of each of those, but the 4th note of each measure is the note that connects the 2 chords. And so on. Now let's move to the root and 5th approach. So in this one, you can kind of use a formula to do it. So the first note would usually be the root. And the 3rd note would be the 5th. So it would be the root, any diatonic chord, and then the 5th. And as usual, the 4th note is the one that resolves to the next measure. So we would start again at our A minor 7 chord, and we'd have our root A. And now we can choose any diatonic note of the A minor scale. So I'm just going to choose the B. After the B, we have the 5th, and then we resolve to the next measure, so C sharp, D. So let's try to play those 4 bars. Now I'm going to play the whole Fly Me to the Moon song for you to see all of the types of walking bass. Now let's look at another jazz song, Autumn Leaves. Listen carefully to the walking bass in this song. So as you can see from the first 4 measures, I used the step approach because it used mostly whole steps and half steps. And then after that, I used the chord approach for the F sharp diminished chord and the B7 chord. As you can see, the chord tones were in the first 3 notes of the measure. And after that, it was just 2 measures of E minor, so I just played chord tones that went with E minor. But for the last 2 notes, I used the F sharp and G sharp, so I could resolve to A minor 7 again. I used the chord approach again. And then after that, the step approach. And after that, for the F sharp diminished and the B7, I used the chord approach again. And for the last measure of that phrase, I just played chord tones in the E minor chord. The chord approach again, and then the step approach. And after that, it was the chord approach again. It was just the E minor chord backwards. And then the G sharp resolves to the A minor 7 chord. And for those 2 measures of the G major chord, I just played any chord tones in the G major scale, because it's a G major chord. After that, I used the chord approach again, I just used different tones, not just F sharp, A, C. I used A, C, and E. And then after that, I kind of used the root and fifth approach, but the fifth was the second note, not the third note. And then for the next measures, it was split. So the E minor 7 for 2 of the beats, the E flat dominant 7 for 2 of the beats. I hope that gave you a better insight on walking bass. Let me know if you try it. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel, Tara Talks Music. Thanks for watching.